What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I was actually just gonna chill this weekend. Got super soakers. You know, get that action going. I didn't even think they made them anymore. I was spatchcocking a chicken. Cocking a chicken out there on the Traeger grill. When my phone blew up, and I was like, all right, I'll talk about this. Because, you know, I always, it's easier to make content when it relates back to the Eagles. And a certain trade happened to a player that, for whatever reason, which made zero sense to me, was linked with the Eagles. Vegas had Philadelphia with, like, very legitimate odds to get this player. But Julio Jones has been traded from the Atlanta Falcons to the Tennessee Titans. Right now, it's at least a second-round pick, which means it's definitely not a first, but it could be like a second with conditions or a second-round pick, and then another pick that is conditional, probably based off of, like, maybe 1,000 yards for Julio Jones, stuff like that, and then the Falcons will get more kickbacks. But Arthur Smith hooking up his former team, sending Julio Jones, and then it ends that saga, right? The whole Shannon Sharp, Julio calling in. I do think Julio was, like, in on that. That seems like, I don't know. That's weird. That was weird, though. We'll just say that was a very weird thing to kind of play out. But either way, Julio Jones going to the Tennessee Titans. I think it's a good trade. I think, first of all, just kind of get the Eagles' take out of the way. Thank God. Julio Jones is not, Julio Jones is probably the most talented wide receiver of, like, this generation. Of, like, why, like, since he's entered the league. And when did he get drafted? 2010, 2011? Till now, I think he's probably the best wide receiver. Like, in that period. Since he's been in the league, he's probably been the best. From, like, freak athleticism to just general wide receiver ability. Route running hands, jump balls, big-time plays. You know, you look at that, obviously it was an unfortunate result. But, I mean, he had made some really, really big plays in that Super Bowl that they featured in. So the fact that, at 32, at least for Philadelphia, made no sense. Philadelphia is going to a rebuild, and I would not be satisfied. Would be happy with this team trading second round, maybe, second and a third round pick, whatever the compensation ends up coming out from the Tennessee Titans. Probably I'd rather keep those picks. I don't think Philly's a Julio Jones away from being really good next season, even though it might be nice to have another weapon for, Jalen Hurts, to see if Jalen Hurts is the guy. I hope, Jalen Reagor season, and Devontae Smith is more than enough to be like, hey, we can either see if Hurts is good or if he sucks. But kind of putting this onto the Tennessee Titans, this is a big move. I think the Tennessee Titans surprised me because I do believe that they're a win-now team. Especially, Tannehill's not getting any younger. Derrick Henry, we all know the life of a running back, right? The amount of touches that Derrick Henry's getting, there's going to be a year. It might not be next season, but there is going to be a year, kind of like we saw with Zeke Elliott in the Dallas Cowboys. You can only feed a running back an absurd amount of carries until it finally catches up to him. You're not going to outrun that, right? And, from that mindset, you're winning out Derrick Henry. Who knows when it's going to be that year for Derrick Henry? Because it's coming. I hope it's not anytime soon. As a neutral, love watching Derrick Henry play. Love the redemption story of Ryan Tannehill. Big time fan of A.J. Brown. I draft him in fantasy every year since he's been a rookie. But you look at the Tennessee Titans kind of being in a win now, and they lost a lot of things in the offseason. Most notably, their two other three best pass catchers. Jonnu Smith went. New England Patriots. Corey Davis, who finally put it all together last year, he went to the Jets for big-time money. I was a little surprised that they didn't retain at least one of those players. I can't speak 100% to the salary cap implications. And then, you toss Adoree Jackson. And, it definitely just got the perception before the draft for the Tennessee Titans of, like, what is going on? This has not been a strong offseason for them. But then you go into the draft, and I think they did pretty well. Obviously, Caleb Farley, no risk it, no biscuit. He's either going to be a very good corner, or the injuries are, unfortunately, might be too much to overcome. Hopefully he puts all together. You got Reduns in the second round, Monty Rice, Des Fitzpatrick. I think they had a pretty stellar draft, and it makes up for last year. In 2020, they got Isaiah Wilson. Like, did he even ever play? They thought they were drafting the Jack Conklin replacement, and now he's, like, retired and out of the league. So it has been generally probably pre-draft, because I think they did have a stellar draft. Pre-draft for the Tennessee Titans, it's been going in the wrong direction. So now you get someone like Julio Jones, who's absolutely a win-now receiver that should be able to maximize Ryan Tannehill, whatever new offense that they're going to be rocking and rolling with for the replacement of Arthur Smith. Julio Jones is kind of scheme-proof in a ways. And it'll be interesting from a fantasy standpoint if the Titans finally start to use Julio Jones in the red zone, because that was like the one knock. Atlanta just would not find Julio Jones in the red zone. He was always like a crazy yardage guy, never got the tutties. Hopefully that changes here this year. But Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, solid O-line. I'm not going to say that Julio Jones, a 32-year-old wide receiver, just made the Tennessee Titans a favorite in the AFC, but I think it gives you a little bit more confidence in saying, like, all right, if they didn't have Julio Jones and they're going in with really A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry as their only two weapons, you're kind of saying to yourself, like, they're going to be good. They're going to battle for a wild card spot. Now, with the addition of Julio Jones, even the fact that Julio Jones just really feels like he can't stay healthy, he's questionable every week. If you can get 12 games out of Julio Jones, maybe even just 10, he probably will get you 1,000 yards. And that's the kind of play that they've been dying to get from Corey Davis. Finally got it last year, but then did the right thing, did the smart thing for his family, cashed out, went to the Jets. And then you look at from a Titan standpoint, generally, you give up. Like, how could you find a negative in this? You'd be like, well, we just traded, draft capital, premier draft capital for a 32-year-old wide receiver. And you kind of look at the last couple drafts, they're a hot and cold team when it comes to drafting. I think the general manager is generally pretty good. Robinson, right? John Robinson. But you look at the last couple drafts, man, very hit or miss. Like, literally, it looks like every other year they'll have a solid draft. Like, I don't know what draft he started with, but, you look at, 2015, Mariota, didn't work out. 2016, Jack Conklin was solid, didn't get a second contract with the team. Kevin Dodd, the second-round pick, bust. Austin Johnson, bust. And then they finally got Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard. So, good and the bad. This is a team very hot and cold. 2017, Corey Davis, didn't get a second contract. Dory Jackson, got cut. Then 2018, you got Rashaan Evans, who I think he's probably been okay. I think Jaylen Brown, a lot of fans for the Tennessee Titans are a little bit higher on him. And I assume they're not super high on Rashaan Evans, because if you've seen any mock trade involving the Titans, it's always revolving Rashaan Evans going to a different team. So I assume wasn't an absolute hit on that pick. 2019, great draft. Jeff Simmons, A.J. Brown. 2020, not looking the best right now. So I think point being is, generally speaking, hit or miss for drafting. Seems to, they got a lot of good, talented players, but I think I don't really know if there's unless you're like Baltimore. I'm thinking Baltimore's drafted very well. That's just the only teams coming off the top of my head. But I feel like if Baltimore traded, multiple seconds, third-round picks, might be a little bit more steep, because they're always just hitting goddamn dingers, hitting it out of the park. But someone like Tennessee, hit or miss, hot and cold, I think you definitely can live with whatever draft compensation they gave to the Atlanta Falcons to secure the services of Julio Jones. And I think ultimately, it's a good move. It's a good move. I don't think it makes Julio Jones any more draftable. Maybe it kind of affects A.J. Brown negatively if you're thinking about this from a fantasy football standpoint. But from an actual football standpoint, I don't think you're going to find too many Tennessee Titan fans that are going to be upset about this. Julio Jones is absolutely the kind of playmaker you guys need to get over that hump and be that much more legit in the AFC. And I close this one out saying, good move for you guys. Thank God my Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman, didn't do something stupid and bring in someone like Julio and just waste the end of his career. It just never made any sense, because clearly Julio Jones, if you're leaving Atlanta, why would you leave Atlanta to go to a team that's probably very similarly ranked in how legit are they going to be next season? You clearly want to go to a winner. And if you're looking at this from where else could he would have gone, right? Like the Rams. I think I'd rather see Julio Jones than the Tennessee Titans. He's just that would be very disrespectful to say he's just another guy on the Rams. But the fact that the Rams have Bob Woods, who's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL, Cooper Kupp, who's a legitimate 1,000-yard receiver. They got Deshaun Jackson for that veteran fill a niche role, right? And then what other teams? Patriots? No one wants to see that. All right, you don't want Julio Jones going to the Patriots. And you look at Tennessee, man, they were going into the season with A.J. Brown, very good wide receiver, but outside of that, Josh Reynolds, so a depth guy from the Rams who, you'd be putting way too much pressure on him for hoping that he's going to break out. You had this guy, Nick Westbrook, Des Fitzpatrick, Kalijah Lipscomb from Vandy, he's solid. Racy generally speaking, this was the best fit. This is, from a neutral standpoint, probably what's going to be best to watch Julio Jones do his thing on Sundays. And I think it's ultimately a good move. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Definitely want to hear from Titan fans. Definitely want to hear from Falcon fans. End of an era, is it? Calvin Ridley season up there in Atlanta. Hey, it would have been cool seeing Julio Jones and Kyle Pitts not only play together, but as someone that's very, very much hoping that Kyle Pitts becomes an absolute stud, because, go Gators. It would have been cool to see him learn from probably under Julio Jones. That could have been a nice little mentorship kind of thing going on there. But definitely want to get a good read from both fan bases. How do you guys feel about this trade? Let me know in the comment section below. But that'll do it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out. And I'll see you tomorrow for a new episode of the Detroit Lions. Peace out.